Winning. I've outsmarted you on a number of levels. Beta. Well, actually, King's not. Beta.
That was a hot mess inside a dumpster fire, inside a train wreck.
Keep your mouth shut. I'm going to go in there and slap your face.
You know, we're going to rise like the Phoenix. And
Get in my limousine. Ride on 85. Get in my Learjet. Woo!
Welcome to the Asterisk and Collusion podcast. You're here with the king himself. I'm joined by my compadre, the Grizz. And we got a special guest today, Magic Mike himself.
Right,
how's it going, Magic?
Glad to be on with you guys, man. We just celebrated the third birthday of the youngest Stovall, so everybody's taking a little break so I can be on the podcast. But I apologize for the background noise. It's probably going to happen at some point.
It's all good. I mean, get the league involved. We like to keep this a league-friendly podcast and keep people in it and get their opinions and thoughts and trash gatos.
That's right. Always trash and gatos.
Yeah,
we could have a whole plot on that, right? Should we do that one?
I think we should.
But let's get on our podcast today. It's going to be on rookies. And I'm going to start off with running backs because that's a whole lot to talk about. And I was thinking about this earlier this week. You look at the free agent classes and what's happening and transitioning in football right now with these holdouts and such. And I think that's because of the immediate success of running backs in the National Football League. And I think this class is actually as good as the class that Matt Forte was in. You could possibly get 6 or 7 starters this year or next year out of this class. I feel that good about the running backs. And I'll tell you right now, if I don't have 3 rookie running backs in this draft class, I'll be upset.
Oh, I agree. I mean, I think drafting rookie running backs, fresh legs, you always find 1 or 2 that are like really that pop off and are worth it.
Yeah, I mean, they can have immediate success, and that hurts all these guys that are holding out because if like you're Jonathan Taylor and Josh Jacobs, you want that $15 million a year, you can just draft a guy at around 3 or 4 and pay them pennies and nickels, and they're going to have some success. Now, those guys are studs, but these guys also get hurt a lot. So you want young, fresh legs. And starting off my list is pretty obvious. I didn't want to spend too much time on this guy, but Bijan Robinson with the Atlanta Falcons, I think he's a generational talent, probably the best player since Barkley and Peterson has come in the league, and I expect him to have 1,500 yards. He's not going to be a sleeper in our league. He's a first-round draft pick. The only thing I don't like about Robinson fantasy-wise is Algier and Patterson there. They're going to get some touches, and you got to factor in how much they're going to look at Robinson, but he does catch the ball well. So what do you guys think about Bijan as a whole? Do you like him or love him?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm the first pick. I don't think I can take him at the number 1 spot, but I guarantee he'll be going midway through the first round, the latest. Probably behind McCaffrey, obviously, behind Eckler. But to your point, Grizz, he can do it all, which is hard to find in a running back these days, especially one that hadn't been banged up with 4 or 5 years of service time. And the biggest knock he's going to have is he's playing for the Falcons. So, but what they did, even with getting as much as they did out of Cordero Patterson and Algier, it's admirable. So this guy's going to have an opportunity, a lot of opportunities. So I think somebody could win the league based on drafting this guy.
Yeah. What do you think, Coop?
I agree. I mean, they took him in the first round. So the Falcons did for a reason. They're going to give him the ball. I think Algier will cut into it, but you never know. I mean, something could happen. What if Algier goes down with a nick? I mean, then all of a sudden Bijan just becomes like the stud of studs, and the Falcons are going to ride him. But I think they're going to give him the ball no matter what. I think he's a pretty fresh legs, pretty safe pick for the most part.
He's going to be solid. And honestly, I think from a football entertainment perspective, we all want to see what he does, and he's going to provide some big highlights. We know that.
Plus, I'm going to just throw in there, he's in the same division as like the Panthers, and if you saw them play in their preseason last night, they couldn't stop.
You weren't impressed?
As a Bears fan, I was paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Kittens did not look good last night.
I want a top 3 pick.
You might try to get like the number 1 locked.
Well, so number 2 on my list is Jahmyr Gibbs with the Lions, and my opinion on him is I don't even think he'll be the bell cow there. I think it's going to be Montgomery. But the Lions have, in my opinion, the top 5 offensive line. They're a really good line. That was led to their immediate success and rise. But Jahmyr Gibbs is going to get a lot of looks. He's kind of like Robinson, where you can flex him out. I compare him to Alvin Kamara. We talked about that prior. But Gibbs is, I think, going to get 70 balls. And he's going to get over 1,000 yards combined, I think. I just don't know all that he is. And he's going to be exciting. And that was a weird draft pick. I didn't like the draft pick. I thought the Lions could have taken a lineman or really addressed their defensive line because they got Hutchinson there. And I was surprised to see them take a running back that high. And like we talked about, I don't like a lot of running backs from round 1. Now, the Bijan was a round 1 running back, but you think Gibbs was a reaching first round in the overall draft? 1 year at Alabama?
Yeah, I think no doubt. I mean, maybe they have a plan that we don't know about. Obviously, it allowed them to let some other guys walk. I think what'll kill him is the fact that he's going to run the ball down inside the 10-yard line and then go sit on the sidelines and watch Dave Montgomery pound that thing in the end zone. But the flip side of that is the Lions can have some lopsided scores, and when you're playing from behind, that running back out of the backfield can be really beneficial. One of those guys that gets 8, 9 catches, 65, 70 yards. If he does happen to get a touchdown, then you win a week off a guy like that. So we'll see how it shapes up working into the season as they come into their offense. But yeah, I do think it was a reach for them to take the first round. I was surprised when they did it.
Yeah, I think the Lions kind of blew that draft pick. But for fantasy wise, I think he kind of steps in the role that Swift had. Swift didn't have a great year last year. He's banged up a little bit. Jamal Williams kind of took over the Lions backfield, but it's a completely new backfield. It's Monty back there, Gibbs. And I think like Gibbs will actually have a good season. And I think you can get him at value. So
yeah, I think he's going to go around 3 or 4. It just depends. I mean, he could go around 2, depending on somebody who likes him a lot. Who knows? He's going to have some big games, I think. The next guy I have on my list is Zach Cabernet. I didn't pronounce his name, from UCLA. And I'm glad we're doing the podcast now because I did see a lot of potential this past week with the rookie running backs. And he flashed a little bit. And I wonder if he'll take over for Walker, because they did draft him high. They talk a lot about him. He is a multi-dimensional weapon. He can do everything. He can pass blocking, catch the ball. He's great between the tackles. He's got some speed to him. He's an exciting player. Like you say, if Walker went down, he's a plug-and-play starter. So, I mean, I have him on my list, and that's a guy who could fall down the draft quite a bit. So, again, he's very interesting, polarizing, got the talent, but that's a guy I'll probably wait on a little bit. Where would you guys think he falls in our draft?
Round, maybe. I mean, a guy that wants to, again, to your point earlier, when we opened up groups with having at least 3 rookie running backs, that's when you start trying to grab those guys for that depth. And the running back position as a whole has been devalued, not only in actual football, but in fantasy football. So you got to have 6 guys, maybe 7 running backs, and then that's where you would take a guy like him, I guess maybe hoping for an injury or 2. I mean, it's the Seahawks, so they don't mind using multiple backs. They've had to do that in many seasons over the years, and this guy maybe ends up being their top guy for a while. So that could be, again, a game changer, a difference maker. But I'd say, to me, round 10, round 11, you start looking for these types of running backs that have opportunities.
It's frustrating because we're looking at a lot of backfields, of split backfields. And if you have a split backfield, what you're looking at, like say with Green Bay, you got Dillon and Jones there, and you want the back that catches balls. So I look at those 2 running backs in Seattle as pretty much carbon copies of each other. So I don't know, like Walker's going to go pretty high in our league, and I kind of have them like 50-50 split almost. So that's I look at it as a buyer beware.
And the tough part is, in Green Bay, they've got a defined role. You've seen those guys play together for a couple seasons. With Seattle, because this guy's a rookie, you got to roll the dice a little bit and hope that that's the way they play it from a coaching standpoint, and that this guy can run block and do the things he needs to do as a running back to be able to get more time on the field. So I agree they mirror image each other a little bit, except for the fact that you've seen those 2 guys in Green Bay play together for a couple of years. You kind of know what those time shares and those shares are going to be, and you don't know that for sure in Seattle. So it really is more of a roll of the dice to take it, but I think you have to at some point. Somebody's going to get him on the roster, and we'll see.
Yeah.
Who doesn't like a nice Cabernet?
Yeah. You could have some new sayings, and who knows, in the Sports Center, we're going to hear some good terms.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't know. I'm more buyer beware on that. I think like the Seahawks backfield's kind of garbage. Like it's a big mess back there. Walker could be the guy. He looked like a stud last year.
Oh
I was
yeah,
kind of surprised they even drafted a running back that high.
yeah.
Like
Again, they drafted way too high. I thought.
I don't know, but I think Stovall's right. I think Cabernet, whatever, will go in like the 10th round, give or take. But I would be looking more like around like the 13th, 14th round and below for him, just because I mean it's got to be Walker's backfield, right? Like I don't know.
We don't know.
It's a tough call.
They're featuring him yesterday in the game a lot, and actually, because of my next running back, I was really happy to see some of these rookie running backs in the preseason. And they're not playing a lot of downs, but they had some explosive plays. And I'm a Bears fan, and we talk about Fields too. That's another podcast. He looked amazing yesterday. But for the Tennessee Titans, Tajay Spears looked awesome. He is basically that scat back, multidimensional back. It's basically a great compliment to Henry. And I think if Henry went down, he could just be an absolute stud there. He's going to be a plug and play starter. He will be the immediate backup to Travis Henry. Again, if you draft Henry in round 1 or 2, whatever it is, you're going to have to get these running backs like around 8, 9, and 10 because you want the insurance policy.
And maybe the Titans will learn not to run the hell out of Derrick Henry early in the season and go have a few extra carries so he doesn't get worn down because he, I think, just turned 30. So
he's up there.
Over that line of, maybe give him a less of a load early in the season so you have him sharp and fresh for later in the season, which would make this guy's value go up a lot.
I do see Spears getting 15 touches a game, like 3 or 4 passes and about 10 rushes every game. So I think he's a guy I want my roster. Like I said, I want 3 rookies like that.
I imagine so. Like, I mean, they got to dial back Henry's numbers. I mean, like, I bet you he had like at least 80% of the carries the past 3 or 4 years.
Complete bell cow.
Yeah, and they just got to dial that back to like 60% if he's hoping to make it through this season and maybe even next. I don't know. But yeah, I mean Spears, why not? I think like when you're talking about like a player like him, you're starting to draft those rookie running backs just left and right, hoping something pops.
Yeah, I like a lot of them. And actually another one that was on yesterday, I was looking at him and he's a unique player. I don't know what it is about Kansas State. You get this guy's a clone of Darren Sproles. It's Vaughn with the Cowboys, and he's got a unique story. If you guys watch it, I think his dad's a scout for the Cowboys. They drafted him late. They were all cheering. It's kind of one of those feel-good moments. And I watched him play. He is quick, and he's kind of an accent to Pollard, even though Pollard's not very big. But I think Deuce Vaughn could have a very significant role for the Cowboys this year. And he's another guy I'd like to have in my roster. What do you guys think about that? Did you guys watch him play?
I mean,
yeah, I remember the story when he got drafted. I think he was a 6th round pick.
Yeah, he looked really good. They were featuring him yesterday. He can catch the ball. He's going to make linebackers miss in space, and he's going to have a really big role with the Cowboys. Guarantee you that.
Yeah. I mean, he can catch balls, so I mean, yeah, he's got value.
I think he'll catch 40 or 50 balls there, so there's value. The next guy's also a pass catcher. I think actually the messiest backfield, this is my opinion, the messiest backfield in the NFL is the Miami Dolphins. That's a shit show. I mean, I think Jeff Wilson, Mostert, and you got this new guy, Devon Arcane. I mean, he's really small. I saw him warming up, and he looks like he weighs 150 pounds. He is minute, but he is lightning in a bottle. And with that wide open offense, and again, he's going to be catching balls. So he's kind of like that third down back. And I don't know how our league views third down backs as a whole. Do you think third down backs have a role?
I think if you're counting on the third down back to try and win, you're probably going to be in bad shape. You're playing grins every time I mock draft. I feel like I come across a Dolphins running back every round from about round 8 through about round 12, and you feel like you have to take him, but then you think to yourself, is there any way this guy's going to get enough time on the field to actually make a difference, right?
Yeah, that's a little hard.
I mean, if you go all the way down to, you used to have Miles Gaskins on that roster, Jeff Wilson. You got a lot of warm bodies and only one football.
Yeah, I don't honestly, I just don't want to draft anybody running the ball on that team because it could just be a plethora of crap. And no matter who you draft. One guy's gonna be hot 1 week and they're gonna get benched or hurt. I don't trust any of them.
Nah, I think every publication I'm like looking at, you'll see a pop up like, oh, undervalued running back. It'll be Mostert, and then like next week I'll read something else. It'll be Wilson Jr. and like all this stuff. So you're right. Like that's even a worse backfield than Seattle as far as like muddled and swamp mess.
And that's the next one I have on my list is another backfield. I think it's got no real like starter in a bell cow. And that's my team, the Chicago Bears. Sleeper had mentioned that towards the end of the last podcast. Like, who do I like? I'm like, I don't even know. But in our rookie class, we have Roschon Johnson, who was the backup to Bijan Robinson at Texas. Like a lot of scouts are saying, if he was on another team, he probably would have gone a lot higher. But I think that's where you draft running back, round 4. I think it was good value for the Bears. And he had a run yesterday. I was talking to my dad, and he had a 24-yard run. He plowed over 4 guys, just trucked them. And I'm like, that's what I like. North south, hit the pocket and just roll. He's like 6'1", about 230. And I do think Roschon will have a really big role with the Bears. I just don't know if it's going to be this year. You saw Herbert run off. They had a like 60 or 70-yard touchdown reception. That's kind of what Herbert is. And you got to be careful if you take a Chicago running back, because they also have Deontay Foreman there. But I don't know if I would even want to draft a Chicago Bears running back very high.
Yeah. Herbert's going to somebody for sure. It sounds like this Johnson guy and Deontay Foreman have kind of the same game, which might hurt him with getting some playing time. But again, we know there's going to be injuries, right?
Yep.
And you're going to have guys either that you got them as the last maybe 3-4 rounds of the draft, or this is the first person you're spending money on the waiver wire to try and pick up. So it's good to know where these guys are. And I don't see myself taking any better running backs. But,
we could talk about running backs. There's probably like 10 other running backs that will have some significant value in the Ashton Cup or fantasy football as a whole. And like the guy in Jacksonville, Coop, you like behind Etienne, he's got some ability. Yeah, Tank's going to have. He's I don't know what Jacksonville really is in their running back backfield. Like, who's going to be their backup, or who's going to be like their first, second down running back? Because Etienne is not really that. He's kind of like a flex player.
Yeah, I think Tank's going to be probably. I can see him being more of like the kind of like first, second down, like taking that over. Etienne's definitely more of a receiving back. They might do, if they're smart, they might just do some crazy stuff, like even play 2 running backs, split, Etienne out and match him up with a linebacker and be a matchup nightmare. But this is Jags, so I don't expect them to get too crazy and think that through.
And we've seen a lot of running backs already this preseason that are undrafted that look pretty good. And, we're going to miss out on 2 or 3 running backs as a whole. The whole league will. They're going to have some success. I remember, I think it was 3 years ago. Remember James Robinson with the Jaguars? He had that amazing rookie year, undrafted, and I think whoever had him won the league. I mean, he had like 12 or 1,300 yards, and we were like, nobody saw that coming. So, like I said, running backs. I mean, these young guys that come in, it's just you just hope to get lucky. You better draft a lot of them.
Or you get in the first 2 or 3 weeks on the waiver wire. That's it.
That's right. That's it. And after that, it's done.
Yeah,
So, Coop, you got wide receivers. Let's get into some wide receiver talk.
All right. I'm not planning on going too deep, because I think, as we know, like rookie receivers typically don't do too well their rookie season in the league. I mean, there are exceptions, of course, but might as well start with like some of the top names. One is Jordan Addison out of Minnesota. He's a hot name. He's taking over for Adam Thielen. He'll be playing opposite of Justin Jefferson. So a lot of single coverage for him.
Yeah, what do you think about that, Magic? Do you like Addison a lot this year?
So he started his career at Pittsburgh, so I got to watch a lot of him. That's where my wife went to college. We watched a lot of Panthers games, and that guy's a stud. Went to USC and continued that trend. I think him playing opposite Justin Jefferson is the key, actually, because obviously you've got a key on that guy. So that's going to leave him with some opportunities one-on-one. He's a great route runner. He's got amazing hands. I'll be very high on him. I'd love to have him, at the right price.
I think he's going to go high. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see him slipping around 6, like after some of these like solid veterans go, and you're going to take some up. He's pure upside. I think he's a facelift over Thielen. You saw that toe drag catch he had yesterday. I'm like, damn. I mean, he's got it, whatever it is. I'm impressed. I think everybody's noticing this. So Ashton, like I didn't like him a whole lot originally, but now he's growing on me. And I mean, he had that dumb speeding ticket. I was wondering if he's gonna get suspended, but you know, he's got upside. So an upside in our league, it's gold, and he's gonna go high.
Yeah, I like him. Definitely depends on where he goes. Obviously, I hope he doesn't go too high, 6th, 7th round maybe. But I think playing opposite of Justin Jefferson, we've said that numerous times, and I'll keep saying it. He could have like one of those like surprise rookie seasons.
Yeah, and you can hate on Kirk Cousins, but they throw the ball.
Yeah, well, they're gonna throw.
There's plenty to go around. He's in the right offense. Be sitting there watching somebody, Titans, for example. He's in the right offense. He's going to get opportunities. I think he's the guy that's going to make a difference.
Yeah, my next rookie receiver is Jackson Smith and Jigba, the Seattle rookie. This is actually he was the first receiver taken in the NFL draft, and I like him as a talent. I just don't like his situation, being there with DK and Lockett. Thank you. I think their receiving core is muddled like their backfield.
Yeah, it's a good team. It's a good situation in real life, but for fantasy owners, if I was to take the receiver out of that group, I would take Metcalf. And Lockett's been money for some people. I had him like 2 years ago, and he was awesome. He had some 30-point games, and he's boom or bust. And I think with Najigba being there, you're going to have like 2 or 3 games where he's just going to blow up like where Lockett did, and you're going to see inconsistency. I just don't know it. He's more of a slot guy, and we like those outside guys, those long threats and guys who are going to catch a lot of passes. I just don't know what he'll do this year. I have him kind of almost like one of those guys that's like, really late, like 15, 16. Like, I don't know where I draft him at. I'm not going to put a huge investment into Najigba.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the other piece, to me, Geno Smith had a out of this world season last season. I don't think anybody saw it coming that he was going to be top efficiency passer, and I don't know if he can do that all over again. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think the other piece of it is he revert back down to the mean a little bit, not play so above the level that I think he probably really is. I mean, he's a career backup that played out of his mind. So that doesn't help either. That you might have a guy that's going to regress a little bit. I'm almost sure that's probably what's going to happen with Geno.
I think I agree with that. I think everybody thinks that, but I revert back to how Seattle just ditched Russell Wilson. Like they knew something, and they brought on Geno Smith, and maybe Pete Carroll's a quarterback whisperer. And I think Smith will be safe, but I would be surprised to see him blow up the league and actually grow and improve, but you never know.
Yeah. Sure.
It's tough. I'm kind of more in the Magic's camp. I think Geno could like regress a little, but hey, we'll see. That's why we watch football.
Who you got next?
I got Quentin Johnson, Chargers receiver, big guy.
I'm in love with him.
Yeah, he should be interesting. He's going to be in there with Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, but I had Mike Williams last year, and he couldn't stay healthy and was pretty much garbage for me.
Keenan Allen's hurt too. They're old and slow. And I watched Johnson last night. He looked good.
Yeah. I mean, you got Herbert throwing the ball.
That's a bad situation, right?
Yeah.
That's another team too that has to play from behind on occasion, right? They get in those situations where they end up having to throw the ball a bunch. That's why Austin Eckler gets 100 catches a season. And if you got a guy like him where they'll have to play 3 wide, 31 formations where they got one tight end in there and Eckler in the backfield, and that's opportunities for that guy. So
I think he has a major chance to be a rookie that catches 100 balls, because I do think he'll be starting a lot this year, because I think Mike Williams or the other wide receiver will be hurt at times, and he's going to start half the year. I think because of that, and knowing Herbert can air it out, and he's got a new weapon that's tall, rangy. Those guys cannot go long like he can. You're going to see some deep passes, and he's going to have some big games, I think.
Yeah. Keenan Allen's what, 35 now?
He's ancient by NFL standards.
Yeah. I'll say this. I think Quentin Johnson will be a second half receiver.
Yeah.
Like, going through the typical rookie learning curve, but also I think by about halfway through the season, Mike Williams will certainly be hurt. Keenan Allen probably his whatever's ailing him will probably sideline him.
He'll miss
I
3
think,
or 4 games.
yeah, and I just think like Quentin's going to pick up steam. I think second half he could be a monster, with Herbert throwing him the ball.
I agree. So who do you got next?
I got Zay Flowers in
He's hot.
Baltimore. He's hot. He's sexy. He's got Lamar Jackson, the 200 some odd $1 million man, throwing the ball.
That's who Gatos wanted. Gatos really wanted Zay Flowers to be in the Buffalo Bills, and I think that would be a really, really
That's
great place.
That's kind of a negative, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're not going to get into that, Coop. But I mean, then they ended up drafting Kincaid, which we'll talk about later, I think. But Zay Flowers is I think he's a one-trick pony, though. So, in saying that, what he does dimension-wise and what he's going to bring to the ball game, and having a quarterback who's kind of all or nothing, I think when Lamar rolls out and he can find him open, he's gone. But other than that, he's not gonna go up and grab it. Receiver, he's too small, and I just don't know what I don't want any Baltimore Ravens wide receivers.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the messy backfield situation. I'm looking at this list of wide receivers, and I don't see any one of them that just jumps off the page. I mean, it says you got to draft me between Bateman and Odell Beckham. You still have Nelson Aguilar there, Devin Duvernay, who we've all seen for a couple of years. Laquan Treadwell is there now. I mean, they have a lot of options, but none of them really look like great options. And like you said, you still have Lamar taking off and running whenever he gets under pressure. And we'll see the running back situation. J.K. Dobbins, when he's healthy, has been good. So if they have a great running game, then I think that cuts down even more on how much they have to throw the ball. And Mark Andrews at tight end, obviously, he's probably going to be option number 1.
Oh, yeah.
When he's healthy. So it's that's one of those things you maybe wait a couple of weeks and see how it all shakes out and where they're at before you put too much stock into Zay Flowers, although, good-looking rookie.
Yeah, I mean, rookies you want to come in and see make a difference and kind of he's a guy that can take the top hat off of a defense. He's so fast. But, wide receivers usually take 2 or 3 years unless they're really good. And like with Zay, well, he's not comparable to, I think, to Quentin Johnson or Addison. Like they're in a different category and in a better situation. So I don't see a whole lot of wide receivers going or getting drafted. Going high is a whole other story. I only have 2 wide receivers getting drafted high in our league. So do you have anybody else, Coop?
I have one more, Jonathan Mingo for Carolina. He's
picking up steam.
I mean, you saw the offense yesterday. They need something.
Yeah.
Offensive line is what they need.
Yeah, I mean the camp reports have been promising, and like you said, I think next year he probably will be the number 1, and somebody's got to come out of that situation there. I think Carolina will have a rough year, and being a Bears fan, I like it. I never want to hate the Panthers. I support the Panthers, but yeah, I mean, I think what you saw yesterday is going to kind of transcend into the regular season. It is a preseason, but I don't see it being like a huge improvement.
A rookie quarterback trying to throw the ball all the time to a rookie wide receiver, we're not doing well.
Not on the same page.
We're going to be 4-12 or 4-13 or whatever. How many games we play now? 17?
Yep.
It'll be brutal. It'll be a long season.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not, after seeing yesterday, I'm not expecting a whole lot of Mingo. But I will say this, if this was like a keeper league or dynasty league, I would definitely look to keep him. I think he will be a future stud. But it might be a little too early to draft him, though.
How much time we got, Coop?
We got 10 minutes right now. So
all right, let's get into let's do quarterbacks.
Yeah, let's throw it over to the Magic Man.
It's a good segue, actually. We're talking about rookies. Start with rookie quarterbacks. I won't get to Bryce Young just yet. I kind of listed mine out. I got 3 for us to walk through. We're going to start with the freak athlete himself, Anthony Richardson, who I think is probably had the most talk around him just because of his college career and how high he was drafted. So I'll throw it to you guys. What's the opportunity here? Is that somebody going to be willing to actually draft him during the draft?
He will be drafted.
I think so. Like down like for me, I wouldn't look at him past like the teens, like way down there. I didn't really like the draft pick coming out of like Florida. I thought he was very inconsistent. I think he's got a huge learning curve. But what makes him good.
I'll say he did not look good yesterday.
No, like what makes him sexy though in fantasy is his ability to run. And you kind of got a Cam Newton type player, but I think he's much rawer than Cam. I personally, if I'm in the like, I'm thinking long term, and I'd probably bench him this whole year.
Well, Stroud too.
Yeah,
That's right.
I think the best situation for him would be to not play this year and be able to learn and have Gardner Minshew come in. And you add into the fact that you've already got issues with Jonathan Taylor, Michael Pittman's your number one wide receiver. He would be stepping into a horrible, horrible situation for a guy that only completes 55% of his passes in college to come into the pros and have that be, all of a sudden you got to learn all this on the fly, new coach, everything's just working against him. So, best scenario is he's not playing, but I feel like at some point you make that draft pick, you have to put him on the field. So
there are a lot of people that really love Richardson, and I just don't see it.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. Unless we had to take quarterbacks, we were a 2-quarterback league. Maybe that's a different story, But
Oh yeah,
it's gonna be a tough uphill battle for him. So the next guy would be C.J. Stroud out of Ohio State. I think him and Richardson both are going to be hearing about whether they'll be the starter or not all the way through the preseason. So I think that's probably just going to hold the line. But I'll throw it to you guys on C.J. Stroud and if he possibly gets drafted. And by the way, just on what I looked at, Richardson was the only guy that was really drafted in most mocks that I saw.
Yep.
So
exactly. I wouldn't touch Stroud at all. I think he's got a little bit of Trey Lance in him, and his talent level at Ohio State. If you put his Ohio State players right now or the year prior onto the Texas roster, it'd be night and day. I mean, he's got a terrible supporting cast, in my opinion. I think the two backups behind Stroud are better. They have Keenum and Mills there. I would start Mills, even keep Keenum in the second, and Stroud's the third. Stroud is not ready.
Yeah, no, this is another situation where like the quarterback should sit for a year, learn. I'd play Mills. I mean, let him take lumps and stuff. I mean, the Texans are terrible. And I don't know. I'm also like, I wasn't high on Stroud either coming into the draft. I mean, the guy scored, what was it, like a 17 or something on that like intelligence test?
Yeah, he's drawing with crayons.
Yeah, I mean, I think he might have spelled his name wrong. I don't know what happened there. So I'm not really too keen on him picking up the offense and defensive packages, et cetera, that you need to do. So he should be holding a clipboard if the Texans are smart.
As you already know, Nico Collins and Robert Woods are your top two wide receivers, and that's not going to be good for anybody. I've always been impressed with what Davis Mills has been able to do as a starting quarterback playing on a terrible football team. So I assume he's going to get the start. D'Amico Ryans is the one that makes that call. I'm more interested in seeing what D'Amico Ryans does as the head coach, by the way, than just about anything else with the
I think it's I think the Texans are in big trouble.
Yeah.
So third and final guy we started here, Bryce Young. I think I'm correct that he's going to be the starter week 1. I believe they've already said it. So we got a guy that we know is going to start. They have shown in mocks that he's getting drafted. Is anybody in our league willing to take him as a second quarterback?
I do think somebody's going to draft him. I really do. It'll be late, but I think somebody's going to take a flyer on him because he's one of these guys. I mean, the Panthers are going to be behind in every single ball game. So, they're going to, have to come back and throw a lot. So I think because of that, and like you said, Coop, he could be a guy the last half of the season where he starts to get it and maybe he puts some decent stats together.
Maybe. I think LTD might be all over him. I don't know. He probably has his rookie card or something.
Oh yeah, he's signed and autographed, jersey card.
Exactly. I don't know. I'm pulling for Young. I mean, like I'm a Panthers fan, so I'm definitely pulling for him. But I mean, rookies in general. I mean, if you look at rookies in the history of the league, they typically, even like first year starters, don't have great years, even fantasy wise. I mean, look at Peyton Manning. I mean, I think I don't have the exact stats he had, but I'm pretty sure his TDs and interceptions were like equal. Like 25 and 25 or something, garbage like that.
I always think of Troy Aikman. He went 0-16 his rookie year. Got the absolute hell beat out of him.
Yeah.
Bryce, first of all, couldn't survive that. So hopefully that's not the case. But I'm going to be very interested in the last 2 preseason games, see what the Panthers can do to try and get him more protection and more time to see if he's you know, as good as people say he is, he's obviously very accurate and he's got great pedigree from Alabama. But him more than any other quarterback, the last 2 preseason games will be big for me to just kind of see what the team can do for him and then how he actually will grow from week to week, which I know that preseason means nothing. Congratulations, Baltimore, on being 24.
Yeah, that's amazing.
24, but that actually will be an interesting thing for me to see the next 2 weeks for Bryce Young and see maybe he goes a round or 2 higher if he can show some promise.
Well, you know, next week's a big week because the starters typically play a lot in the second game and then they bench them the third. So you're going to see a whole lot of Bryce Young, and the Panthers fans are going to be dialed in next week.
Yeah.
For sure.
Maybe they'll.
Yeah, before we run out of time here. There's really one to talk about. I got 3 if we want to get to all 3 of them, but the one we need to really talk about is our boy Dalton Kincaid over in Buffalo. Lots of talk. Obviously, they have Knox still.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a camp battle, I think, to see who gets the time. But let's throw Dalton Kincaid out there for you guys to talk about.
I think he gets drafted, and there's actually it's a very good tight end class as a whole. And actually, Green Bay's tight end, their backup, got hurt yesterday, and they drafted a tight end round 1, Laporta. And I just don't know. I do have Kincaid as being draftable. There's 2 or 3 other tight ends, but Coop and I, we talk about this all the time. There's really only about 13 or 14 tight ends, in my opinion, in all of fantasy I want in my roster. And putting a rookie in there is a little bit of a gamble, but like Kincaid may have some upside, but you know Knox is going to get some balls. So Kincaid's kind of a hybrid wide receiver tight end. He catches the ball very well, and he could be interesting, which is why I think he'll get drafted.
Yeah, actually, like for Kincaid, I'd be more worried about for Gabe Davis owners. Like I think that, he's not. I wouldn't even draft Gabe Davis this year because I think Kincaid's going to eat into his lion's share or whatever. And I think he'll be draftable. I think like you say, I think for me, he goes in that top 13. Actually, I'd draft him over Knox. So.
Oh yeah, I would too.
Yeah, I mean, I think the other thing to keep in mind too with Buffalo in particular, they do play a lot of 2 tight ends, so they can both be on the field at the same time. The downside to Dalton Kincaid is he hasn't played a ton of football. He actually came along a lot later in high school. Obviously, he had a good college career, but not much of a pass blocker from what I've read and sort of looked into, and that's going to hurt you being able to stay on the field if you can't pass block. But I do see him getting time, and somebody will draft him. I think myself drafting him in the right spot.
He fits right into Buffalo because if you can't pass block, that's a perfect fit because they don't know how to run the ball.
It's a bunch of garbage.
But Chris, to your point, Sam Laporta was the next one on the list. Detroit Lions came out of Iowa. Might get a lot more opportunities now. So what do you guys have on him?
Well, we'll make this real quick because we got less than a minute. But I think Sam Laporta could be a very viable fantasy option this year.
Yeah, he's a guy on my list. And again, if I'm looking at my tight end list and I don't have a good one and maybe I could take some upside, why not? I mean, he's draftable.
Yeah. Well, guys, I think I might close the pod on that note. A little Sam Laporta ending it. Magic, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Mike.
Great time. Appreciate it.
Yeah. And don't forget, we're right and you're wrong.
Especially got this.
See you later.
Adios.